Hello.
Hey guys, Kenny Kane. I right now am with one dear buddy, Steve Mazan. Now, Steve and I started stand-up comedy together in the late '90s in San Francisco, and Steve has had a very interesting last 8 years really.
Yeah.
Steve,
it wasn't boring before that.
very boring, and so was his act. But his act got suddenly interesting in about 2004. Steve's
Still
got
debatable.
Steve's got a movie out right now called Dying to Do Letterman, and what I want to do in this piece is kind of go through your process to get to this movie. So Steve, why don't you, for my viewers, kind of break down what Dying to Do Letterman is about?
Yeah, so we started comedy, you and I, and not together, we didn't decide to go into it, but we met each other in the late 90s. So I was doing comedy full-time for 5 or 6 years. So 2005, we had both moved down here, we were living in LA, and you introduced me to a very sexy a friend of yours who was a photographer with iPhones.
Who's now recording
this video. But
still sexy.
It's very sexy. And but anyways, in 2005, I got a diagnosis of having cancer in a couple places, in my intestines and in my liver. And the worst case scenario that the doctors gave me and my lovely wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, was that I might only have 5 years to live. Obviously, I'm not a worst case scenario guy. You and I, one of the things that I think attracted us to each other, not sexually, at least that we haven't acted upon, was that we're both positive people. We look at the brighter side, or try and find the half full side.
Right.
So, but I did ask myself, if I really only had 5 years left, what would I want to accomplish during that time? And for me, one of my big dreams was to perform on Letterman. I had always been saying, someday I'll perform on Letterman, and now I realized, what if your someday is after 5 years? What if you need to make someday today rather than waiting for it?
Now let me ask you this. I know you well, but for our viewers, had you publicly stated that you wanted to be on Letterman prior to your being diagnosed with cancer?
Maybe to to myself, maybe I maybe admitted it. Maybe to my girlfriend, maybe to a few close friends, saying someday I'd like to be on Letterman. Sure, that was my big dream, but not to the extent that it became once I started this project. The project was Dying to Do Letterman. I decided to start a project, and that was using whatever time I had left to chase that dream. Instead of waiting for someday, I was going to make it happen. Right. And so I started it, and one of the things that I think you and I talked about is the power of sharing that dream. Right. Of finally, instead of saying, keeping it inside, because in really what it's all about, it's rejection, it's failure, afraid to fail, letting it out, and it's amazing that the tree branches, the things that reach out once you admit what you really want to do, what you're, in my case, dying to do. We're all dying. Right. Really, just at different levels that we don't know about. So what you really want to do and what you want to accomplish, and the amazing things that can happen once you let it out. It's almost like you're giving birth to a dream. If it stays inside, nothing's going to happen. Once you give it some life and let it out in the open, your friends help, people you don't know help. Absolutely. Some magic can happen by letting it out there. But it's not being afraid to fail. Yeah,
and I was with you through a lot of that process and watching your going through that, and now. In 2013, the film itself has done well in a number of festivals. Yeah. It's also on iTunes. Right now you can check it out on iTunes.
iTunes On Demand. Amazon. Yeah.
It's on Netflix as well, right?
It will be on Netflix soon. It's got to run its course on these, what do they call, pay-per-view kind of things first. And then the monthly places like Netflix and Hulu and all that will get it. Right. But yeah, so very soon.
And I love the idea of giving birth to the idea and letting people know, letting it out so people can sort of recognize and maybe share in that vision. Okay, so Steve, so for our viewers, and where can they find you? Where can they find the movie? We've already mentioned iTunes. We've already mentioned
On Demand. Yeah, you can find me here with you. Okay. But probably if you look later while you're watching this video, we won't be here anymore. So a better place to look is at stevemazan.com. It's M-A-Z-A-N. You can also look at dyingtodoletterman.com. And there's links to everything. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Friendster, MySpace, LinkedIn. I'm in the Yellow Pages, all that stuff. If people want to.
And not to ruin the surprise, but you actually have been on Letterman since.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to tell them. And I stayed alive. do. This is not pre-taped.
Right.
Yes, I did make it on Letterman, so you can see that. That's on YouTube as well, or you better yet, watch the movie. It's much more dramatic.
Yeah,
you watch the movie. And you can see all the amazing things that me and you and all our friends and Denise and everyone went through this amazing journey just by sharing it.
Right.
The best part about it, I just want to put this in there. Not only does some magic happen when you let it out.
Right.
Amazing things start happening around you. Denise, our photographer, some amazing things happened for her when she started letting out what she wanted to do. She's got an amazing studio now. And people like
your neighborhood studio,
in
Culver City, if you're in California or in Southern California, LA area, check it out.
Amazing. Like that we could have done a documentary just about that.
Right.
Amazing. But all these other people started writing out to me and saying, hey, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to write a book. Now I'm going to do it. It's amazing because I started some little dream of mine, all these other dreams that have started coming as well, by sharing it. That's what it is, by letting it out and actually sharing with other people. And that's hard. Where I grew up, or my parents, they weren't those type of people that let things out and say, this is what I really want to do. You just go with what you're supposed to do. So, but magic happens if you do that.
Well, Steve, very refreshing having you on my project, especially in light of everything that's going on with Lance Armstrong right now. I know very assuredly that everything that is happening with you is from a very authentic place.
Yes,
I'm certainly just kidding. Cancer was kind of a joke.
It's all a joke.
Totally.
I was taking
was actually just a
YouTube
YouTube thing from
I was on steroids when I did Letterman.
But no, it's certainly something that our project is endeavoring to do, which is contribute to the joy of the world in a very authentic way. So, Steve, thank you for doing so.
And thanks for listening. This whole thing wouldn't have been possible if
okay, now the slightly disingenuous, now I can close on a very authentic piece.
That's genuine. I really mean that. This is Denise, our photographer, my wife, would not be here if it wasn't for you.
I know.
I mean, the amazing thing.
Well, I would probably be here.
She would be here. She wouldn't. I wouldn't be here with her probably.
I set them up. It's a longer story for another episode.
That's true. Another episode.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Cheers.